Okay, as you guys know, yesterday I got my Star Trek The Movie Voyages box set, which has the first 7 Star Trek movies on Laserdisc. My format of choice. Instead of doing one big review for this box set here, I'm going to look at each movie individually, starting not with the motion picture, but The Wrath of Kahn. I have 2 copies of the motion picture here, but I really don't feel it's worth watching until well after you see the other 6 movies that have the original cast. It's a very slow, boring movie. It's just not worth talking about right now. What is worth talking about, however, is my Wrath of Kahn Laserdisc. This is the one I got with my second Laserdisc player. This is the one that came in the box set. The Wrath of Kahn single-handedly saved the Star Trek franchise from becoming irrelevant, in that it completely outshadowed its predecessor in terms of action-driven plot, in terms of special effects, and in terms of critical reviews. It was a much more popular movie, and was much more profitable because it had a much smaller budget than the, well, I think it was a $40 million movie. Let me see if it says anything. Nah, I don't have any references to make on that. But it contains some of my favorite lines in all of the Star Trek history, including the Kahn scream when Kahn abandons Kirk on under the surface of Regula 1. It contains some of the best spaceship action in the entire franchise, in my opinion, especially when they're fighting not only above Regula 1, but as well as in the Mutara Nebula. And also has probably my favorite score, other than Star Trek 6, out of the Star Trek movies. So now I'm going to watch the movie. As you can see here, here's side 1. I'm going to watch the movie. Whoops. And I will get back to you guys after I watch The Wrath of Kahn and give my final comments on the movie. Alright. Just finished The Wrath of Kahn. So let me readjust my camera here. Let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about The Wrath of Kahn. Arguably the best Star Trek movie due to its excellent plot, great acting, and leaving plenty of room for a sequel. That's especially what I liked about it. The first Star Trek didn't really leave much of a room for a sequel. This was kind of all invented on its own. The plot was very conclusive. I know everyone said this 1,000 times, but the story of Kahn's almost Captain Ahab-like vengeance quest after Kirk kind of fuels the entire story. It leads him to recklessly go into the Mutara Nebula. It leads him to do a lot of things that he probably shouldn't have. It leads him to treat his crew like absolute shit. Battering around his buddy there, who's at the, I believe he's at the helm of the ship. It's mainly a story about coming of kind of old age and the acceptance of old age. As you know, Kirk at the beginning of the movie is like, "Oh, I'm old," but at the end of the movie, Kirk exclaims, "I feel young again." And that kind of sets the entire, one of the entire plot arcs of the movie. The best scene of the movie was definitely the battle in the Mutara Nebula. I love the scene where Kahn recklessly fires his torpedo into nothing. I kind of chuckle at it every time I see it. I love the scenes where Kahn and Kirk are having their epic verbal arguments They never actually meet each other on screen. Actually, according to many sources I've read, they filmed their parts 4 months apart. They never actually saw each other on the set. And that's pretty cool. But let's talk about the Laserdisc. I know everybody's seen Star Trek 2 that's watching this review. First, start out by pointing out that it has Dolby Surround, which is interesting because the movie Voyager's box set came out in 1995. I'm pretty sure it came out well after the release of Dolby Digital on Laserdisc. But the Dolby Surround track is very loud. You can definitely hear the various channels of the soundtrack. It's got a very nice bass roar to it. The explosions sound fantastic. And oddly enough, the transporter sounds were extremely loud. I feel it offset the rest of the movie's volume level. My disc here, unfortunately, has slight rot at the very beginning of the movie. But only at the very beginning, thank God. I've had some discs with some pretty bad rot, like The Fugitive, and Real Genius had some pretty bad rot there. Luckily, this rot faded away and didn't come back for the rest of the disc. The video transfer is pretty much, in my opinion, on par with the DVD copy that came out in, I think, 2001. But seeing as I don't have that as a reference copy, all I have to reference this to is the Blu-ray, which is restored from the negative, and obviously a much better looking transfer, which is much better sounding, with a much better soundtrack. That's got 7.1 true HD Dolby 7.1 sound. But this is a great transfer. However, it's not free of defects. I noticed especially during some of these scenes on Regular One and some of the scenes after Kahn first makes his appearance have a little bit of film grain, which I did not see in the Blu-ray transfer or the DVD transfer. However, the widescreen is very even, the letterboxing, and my only point for saying that is that Star Trek 6, which I watched the night before when I first got the box set, had some very uneven letterboxing to accommodate for some Klingon subtitles. And in the LaserVision copy of this movie that I have here, let me pull it out here as a reference. This movie has the Vulcan subtitles in the very bottom of the picture, but it's a very blocky font. It's very big. This copy had the Vulcan subtitles at the beginning, kind of at a much smaller font, and in a much awkward placement right below the respective characters. But the picture is very clean. The disc has great art, great pictures, a nice paragraph about the movie, and overall it's not very expensive. You can probably find this on eBay for $5 to $10, or you could get it as part of the movie Voyages box set. I paid a little less than $40 for this. It's definitely going to get its value. It's going to be repaid. And I will see you guys next time when I decide to, when I'm going to take a look at the Laserdisc copy of Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. I will see you guys next time.